Flight Sports TV, man. That's my dude. I rolls with him.
You heard what the man said. It's Flight Sports TV.
Flight Sports TV, that's where it's at.
Flight Sports TV.
Can't hear you.
What's going on, people? Play Sports TV. I appreciate y'all for checking with me. I already know what it is. We back with one of the things. And tonight we got ourselves a hell of a discussion tonight because we're going to be discussing Lamelo Ball, but I want to discuss what's going on with the Hall of Fame. You know, it was so many notable names, some of my childhood favorites. You know, to see Dwade in the Hall of Fame, that's a player that I watch so much. Obviously, guys like Pau Gasol, we all know their history. Guys like Dirk Nowitzki, guys like Tony Parker, the list goes on. There's so many people, you know, and everything that these guys brought to the game is immense. And it's going to be interesting to see how many guys today that we know and love, that we watch, that we appreciate. Some are hyped, some are overhyped. Some guys are coming into the league, you know, with the hype that we've never seen before in our lives. It's going to be interesting to see if any of these players make it to the Hall of Fame like these guys did. These players here today that we celebrate tonight and further on as they walk into basketball immortality. You know, these guys will always get the homage paid over here at Flight Sports for their contributions to the game of basketball, which is immense. I believe guys like Lamelo Ball is on his way, but would definitely need the help of the Charlotte Hornets if he's going to be sticking around there. Hopefully they can work hand in hand and making this a Hall of Fame situation for him in Charlotte, North Carolina. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to get into everything. Salute to everybody in the chat right now. Salute to everybody that's rocking with Flight Sports. I want to appreciate y'all for tuning in with us. We got so much to discuss tonight. I want to break down some notable like hot spots for these guys' careers. All of them have notable things that they've done, whether it's Dwade, you know, going to the finals, acquiring, you know, the big three in Miami, bringing in Bosh, bringing in LeBron. It was the unthinkable. You know, he had these guys take less money as well for them all to band up. You know, it was a Pau Gasol when he was struggling out there in Memphis when he was the man, and then out of nowhere he gets the trade of a lifetime. Some say it was the heist of a century, you know, with Kwame Brown and all that. You know, that he goes to LA, and then the rest is history. You know, we all know what Tony Parker has done. Dirk Nowitzki was the one leg. You got players today trying to emulate that, you know, all over the world. You know, and his contributions is crazy. You know, Dirk Nowitzki, you know, we got to pay the utmost homage around here because Dirk took down the entire big three all by himself. Now he had a cast of characters, but when it comes down to being the number one option, this man took all of them dudes down single-handedly, and they couldn't do a goddamn thing about it. It was almost like he was a man possessed. You know, too bad they couldn't retool around this man and get him some more championships because I think he had another year or two at that level. You know, but they just cashed in, and then it was all she wrote. Salute to Ali Payne, salute to BMR, everybody in the chat. whether it's Tony Parker being a part of, the legendary, situation out there in San Antonio. We all know what happened with them. Tony, I think all of them had their times of being the number one option out there, whether it was Mono at one time. We all know Ginobili had a run where he was the number one option in San Antonio. We all know Duncan had a reign of terror for many years. But let's not forget Tony Parker at one point was the man. Didn't he win Finals MVP when they took down LeBron the first year when he got there? We got to go down memory lane and pay the utmost homage. We're going to get into everything tonight, y'all. It's Flight Sports. I got my man All Access in the building. Dex, talk to the people. We live.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Flight Sports TV, the machine, the voice of the voiceless, the people's champ, the hottest in the streets. Shout out to the panel as it reaches premium peak. Shout out to the chat and all of its cacophony spewing out of the cracks and crevices of Flight Sports block. And I will be remiss. I'm talking about deeply remiss if I didn't big up everybody pulling up the Flight Sports TV and hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and hitting that notification bell so you won't miss one iota of an exuberant experience. And we all like to thank Flight for giving us a personal invitation to a front row seat to this extravaganza. Flight, we're talking Hall of Fame. We're talking the best of the best, the elite of the elite. We're talking about the upper echelon of those participating in that field and activity. We're talking about the more productive of those who have entered into that field or activity. And the field and activity that we are talking about tonight is the HOF of the NBA. Nice acronyms, if I might add. We're introducing some of the more elite or elitist athleticism in all of the sports landscape. Basketball players, so agile, so adept, so fast, twitching, moving right down to the modern day times. It is an internal work as well as an extraneous body of work to be amongst those in the Hall of Fame. And what is the Hall of Fame? Basically, the Hall of Fame is an institution honoring the achievements of individuals in a particular activity or field. The class or category of those who have excelled in a particular activity or field. What does it mean to be Hall of Fame? If you say that someone is a member of a particular Hall of Fame, and we're speaking NBA, you mean that they are one of the most famous people in that area of activity. So being introduced or inducted into a field of activity where you are one of the more elite of your peers. And those who observe the sport, I'm talking about trained observers, not trolls, trained observers, they get the opportunity to have a voice, to have a vote. And especially those who have watched your career mature over the years. And if your career and the body of work that you have put forth, you are put in a category, whether it's charming or alarming. And the corporeal structure of the nature of the sport of basketball is very, very difficult to reach the plateau of Hall of Fame. Because basketball, similar to football, you only have 3 to 5 year window of your career to be able to excel to the next level that you can continue your career and also reap high rewards as far as finance and great dividends. So a lot of these Hall of Fame players, the Dirk Nowitzki's of the world, the Dwayne Wade of the world, the Paul Gasols of the world, the Tony Parkers of the world, most of them, if not all of them, probably had a moment in their life that they questioned, was it worth to continue? And all of them have answered the bell in a overwhelming or over resounding was yes, it is worth to continue. The Becky Hammonds of the world, and we already know Pop. Pop just won't stop. Pop just keep popping. And so all those have been enshrined in this year 2023 Hall of Fame NBA are well deserved. Now, there's always opinions about if it's too early or they should have been in sooner. But nevertheless, they finally get to wear the armor of the coveted name and destination of being a Hall of Famer flight.
Right. I want to get into some names with you right quick, Dex. When I bring up this name to you right quick, by the name of Dwayne Wade, what's some of the first things that come to mind when you think of this man's career?
I mean, first of all, we got to give him a standing ovation because he basically ripped. He basically ripped Miami from Dan Marino. Can you imagine that? Could anybody ever thought that Dan Marino would be supplanted by a basketball player? Can you imagine that? I mean, Dan Marino done a lot of things, and he's a Hall of Famer in himself with his numbers, but he never won a championship. So here comes this basketball player wearing number 3 coming out of Marquette. Top 5 draft. Going to Miami. The basketball team that was all Alonzo Mourning as a player and Pat Riley as a coach and executive. And this young kid just ripped Miami from Dan Marino. Can you imagine that? And not only that, flight, they named him and renamed the county Wade County. It was Dade County, but they renamed it Wade County. I'm talking about unofficially. So if you can go down to a geographical location like Miami, who have produced a litany of athletes all across the spectrum of sports, and they give you the name Wade County, taken from Dade County. Can you imagine that? Out of all of the stars and superstars come out of that region, beautiful Miami, they renamed it Wade County. But nevertheless, when you have Dwayne Wade, a.k.a. Flash, coming out of college, being a Final Four participant in the NCAA March Madness, and you have a player named Carmelo Anthony, and you have a player named LeBron James, and you still are able to cut out a niche for yourself. I'm talking about the data sets, which is a collection of data, on Dwayne Wade have justified him being a Hall of Famer flight. Dwayne Wade job description called for him to have IQ. The job description called for Dwayne Wade to have toughness, grittiness, and want to excel above all others. This ambitious number 3, as he was drafted number 3. This ambitious number 3 in that Miami Heat uniform had demonstrated the fabric of instinct and reaction predicated on all sides, meaning he was a two-way player. And when you examine Dwayne Wade's career, it doesn't fall apart upon close inspection flight. He is the real deal, and that is Dwayne Wade as a basketball player.
Dwayne Wade is definitely the real deal. This guy, Dwayne, is definitely one of the best players I've ever seen. That series, I definitely want to highlight the series, his original championship that he won with Shaq. I think I'm telling you, when he took down Dirk Nowitzki, we'll get into him later. But, I mean, seriously, that had to have been the best series ever. They was down 0-2, going back home to Miami. And Dwayne Wade just completely took over the series single-handedly and punched Miami's ticket to the championship and gave all of these guys some of their first rings, obviously himself, but guys like Mourning, guys like Gary Payton. I just think that, that championship meant so much because everybody wanted it. I remember, I think it was 15 strong or something like that Pat Riley was talking about. I remember because obviously we remember everybody. We got some young people, so everybody remember Pat Riley as a guy that is behind the scenes and doing things like that. But people don't know that Pat Riley was actually the coach many years. But I remember him in Miami when he was doing big things, and it was just definitely an unbelievable run. And Dwayne Wade was the figurehead of the whole thing. And it was unfortunate what happened, to him. I think later on after that, I think he had a shoulder situation. I don't know if people remember. He had hurt his shoulder, and I think it kind of set him back for about like a year and a half. People thought he'll never be the same again, but he was good. And then he shook that off, and it's just like I said, Miami went through some trials and tribulations, and then they got back with the big 3. What you think about that big 3 era with these guys, with Wade, Bosh, LeBron? Because that pretty much we kind of still living in that big 3 era today, as we could see the Phoenix Suns rising, with their new trio. How's D Wade basically bringing everybody to Miami to start a new big 3? Speak to how that has just sent shockwaves throughout the league, and we still living in it to this day.
Well, first of all, I would say, not cockiness, but his hubris. Dwayne Wade hubris stood on his own. It was a fulcrum to his ambition. And that is something that was very charming about a young Dwayne Wade, is that he was definitely a go-getter. So, like I said, upon examination of his career, it doesn't fall apart upon close inspection. Now, aside from the big 3, Dwayne Wade played for a tough nail coach, blue collar. Well, I won't say coach, executive, Pat Riley, because I got to give credit to Pat Riley. Because yes, he gave Stan Van Gundy the job, but then he took it back from Stan Van Gundy because Shaq saw in Stan Van Gundy that he wasn't cut for this. He wasn't cut from that cloth. So Pat Riley didn't want to lose that opportunity to lose Shaq or even get into a tailspin with Dwayne Wade as far as being able to be led by a coach like Stan Van Gundy. So Pat Riley came off of this high horse, and he slowly walked down from his palatial and got down into the mud and did what he had to do to show forth that he still had the mustard to be a leader, and especially a leader from two dynamic players, right? And we're speaking about Dwayne Wade as one of them. When they instituted that, the body shaping, right? The type of archetype that they want in their staple. And they wanted players to be dedicated to health. And they wanted players to be dedicated to be able to show that they can outlast their opponent, which is basketball stamina. Dwayne Wade have done that in all forms of fashion because he's a Heat all-time leader in points, assists, steals, and games played, which is crucial flight right there. Even though he was traded and bounced around a little bit, he came back, retired his jersey as a Heat. Retired as a Heat. I'm quite sure his jersey will be retired. So games played is crucial. So that right there helped incur those outside looking at Dwayne Wade tough it out, like, because he's not the biggest guy, and he had his share of injuries, and it was kind of remembrance of AI to some degree. As far as Dwayne Wade, always on the floor, he's attacking the rim, he gets back up, he shows his force of resilience and keep on attacking. That right there brought the likings of the LeBron James. That right there brought the likings of a Ray Allen, the likings of a Mike Miller, the likings of Bosh, another Hall of Famer off that big three. And we already know LeBron James is going to be the third Hall of Famer from that big three. So when you have an attitude like Dwayne Wade, and you have talent like Dwayne Wade, and you mesh that attitude and talent together as a marriage, and then you consummate it by being a winning player. So Dwayne Wade being at the moment that LeBron admired, because LeBron couldn't get it done. Even though he got there before Wade, he just couldn't get it done. He couldn't consummate the closeout deal. He ran up against a tough team in San Antonio, Dynasty. Chris Bosh, he couldn't get it done. In Toronto, all-star, very diligent player, very focused, highly skilled for his size, couldn't get it done. But they saw Dwayne Wade get it done, right? Even though Ray Allen was a coupling to the Celtics championship. But looking at Dwayne Wade do it with the aging Shaq, with the aging Alonzo Mourning, and what's the other dude that coached Michigan? What's the light-skinned guy that coached Michigan, man? Always get into fights and shit.
Michigan?
Yeah, the University of Michigan, the head coach, Howard.
I'm not sure. I know you're not talking about Michigan State, right?
No, Michigan University, the Wolverines. Howard. Just tell you his name, Howard. Howard. The coach Howard.
Yeah, Howard. Yeah, you were Juwan Howard.
Juwan Howard. You know what I'm saying? So he's bringing these guys to the finish line. UD. You know what I'm saying? He's bringing these guys to the finish line. And that's what's so remarkable about a Dwayne Wade. Because like I said, he wasn't the biggest cookie in the jar, but he was determined, and he got it done before Carmelo, before Bosh, before LeBron, and before anybody of his draft class. And he was the fifth youngest Finals MVP of all time. So that right there made those characters want to join him in his journey to win. And keep in mind, Dwayne Wade showed humility way before Steph Curry. Because Dwayne Wade was one of the first superstars of the league who took a lesser role to make sure LeBron, who was an overall better player, and his buddy Chris Bosh could get a ring. So it would be no conflict. They struggled the first season because of identity crisis. But once they got the understanding of who they are and what must be done, then they went on a back-to-back championship winning spree.
Yeah, and like I said, Miami, they have set the groundwork for basically what they're dealing with now. They got Jimmy in the fold. The championship pedigree is there. Raleigh is there. Spoelstra is there. Everybody from that situation is kind of still there outside of the players. So I just think that Miami is set up. D-Wade is definitely deserving of the Hall of Fame scenario. It's unfortunate that his career got cut short, with the knees and things of that nature. He was dealing with a lot of meniscus, situations. I don't think people remember back in Marquette, I believe, he had an operation where he completely removed his meniscus, and I think that ended up really cutting his career short. Back then, the surgeries were a lot different. The doctors were a lot different. The medicine was a lot different. So I don't think the same things that are available today was available back then. And it resorted to Dwayne Wade's career getting cut short. I would have loved to see him for a few more years. What do you think about Dwayne Wade's, situation where he had to retire prematurely?
Well, I mean, he was essentially the prototypical big guard at 6'4", with the ability to score multiple ways, make game-winning shots, yet remain unselfish with the ball, blessed with strength. That's what I talked about. Needed to rebound in traffic and the anticipatory skills required for defense. Above all, he brought the fiery competitiveness that separated the greats from all others. And this is come out of the NBA.com paragraph. See, Dwayne Wade, he was unique in a way that with all the gifts that God blessed him with, the creator, the universe, whatever you want to call it, whatever spirituality you want to call it, doesn't matter. The omniscient one, the ubiquitous one. He was blessed with that it factor. And that it factor was magnetic. And this is why, and plus Miami, location. Can we say more about that? So you had the player, you had the executive, and you had the location. All these things was very attractive. And it culminated into a winning organization. So Dwayne Wade was that special player when healthy. But his tenacity to remain an object of affection as well as a object of toughness allowed him to power through the pain flight. Young Dwayne Wade played with a lot of pain. Old Dwayne Wade played with a lot of pain. But his ambition to continue those winning ways and to prove that he wasn't the odd man out allowed him to play through the pain. It just reached the point where the pain in his game wasn't leveling off right. The pain was more than his game. So when we saw the last couple of years of Dwayne Wade, it wasn't that powerful Wade. It was more of a finesse Wade. I take my time, I get my spots. And that wasn't the Dwayne Wade that we was used to seeing. And that was the results of those multiple injuries in multiple areas of his body. He just couldn't power through it. So once he realized it just wasn't there anymore, he announced his retirement while he was still playing. So it's remarkable that he even lasted that long flight. It's remarkable that with the help of LeBron James and the Ray Allens and the Mike Millers and Chris Bosches of the world, that helped extended his career because Dwayne Wade was being played like a running back in the NFL. you know how they treat those running backs. Of course. That's Flash. You know what I mean? That's what he do. That's what made him remarkable and somewhat standalone. It was like I said, I compared it to the Allen Iverson syndrome.
Well, speaking of
give me the ball.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
no, I was gonna say you're talking about AI. AI inducted him. He
yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, good information. See, that's what I'm saying. That's the comparison. Like I said, now he's a little bigger than AI and he's stronger than AI. But him and AI had the tenacity to overcome the impediments that laid in their path. And their ambition was to be great. So that's why they are a compatible match based on their ambition to be great. So, like I said, it's remarkable that he lasted that long from the way that he played, because the way that he played, he wasn't reckless, playing 94 feet, because he was a 3-time All NBA defensive player. So he played both sides of the ball. And in basketball, playing both sides of the ball, that's like a running back. That's like giving it to you third and short. Everybody's crashing on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he was able to prevail as long as he could. And then, like I said, it got to the point where his injuries were so painful that it made his game look a little painful. And so to escape from embarrassment and shame, Dwayne Wade pulled back from his game. And when he pulled back from his game, it just never was the same, because our optics and the way that we see Dwayne through the prism of our vision is that he stood up for the smaller guy. And when he wasn't able to stand up for the smaller guy, it reduced his status and it reduced his impactfulness on that court. And that was something that Wade County wasn't used to.
This dude D-Wade was a problem. He was definitely a mid-range assassin. He was just annihilating. I remember when he got traded to Cleveland. I don't know what the hell happened. I know he played with LeBron for a little while in Cleveland. They ended up shipping his ass back to Miami. Miami would end up going to the playoffs that year. I think they still lost to Philly. I don't know what the hell happened, but I know that they pushed Philadelphia to the limit. I think Wade ended up winning a big-time game up there in Game 2. It was a signature D-Wade game. So Wade was still doing his D-Wade things even when he was getting up there in age. I think Miami was bringing him off the bench, too, at that time. I don't know if people remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. What you think about that last round?
Well, no. I was going back. I wanted to go back to the previous statement you made about the Cleveland thing.
Oh yeah.
See, the thing about that is that Wade didn't want to be looked at as useless expenditures. He didn't want to be looked at like a forgotten thing. So Wade was fighting inertia big time. And him and the organization wasn't seeing eye to eye. Because Wade felt that he should have some type of ownership stake in the Miami Heat. And the ownership felt different. So Wade is thinking like, wait a minute, man. I'm out here busting my butt. I'm out here playing through pain. I mean, the people enjoy me because I'm one of the blue collar superstars. I don't try to think more of myself, nor do I think less of myself. At the same time, players around me gets better. So Wade looked upon it as a classic case of the tail wagging the dog. So you telling me I'm doing all of this, and when I put out my request, I wasn't trying to bust the bank, trying to take all y'all money. I was letting y'all, pay me so, and you bring in players. You follow what I'm saying? I was the company guy. I told the line. And now you telling me I'm asking for too much? Really? This is Wade County. So that created an what you call a epileptic crisis. And extreme anger rose from that in D Wade. And now that kind of created a chasm between fan base and organization, because some fans like, come on, Wade, just play it out, man. We're trying to win. You know what I'm saying? And then other fans like, nah, man, you need to give Wade what he deserved because he already done put in the work. You follow what I'm saying? You're not paying on, he's not acting on potential. He is acting on production. And production showed in all facets, whether it was fanfare, whether it's culture, or whether it was finance or profitability. Wade helped Miami win in all those categories. So he was justified for acting. And then it showed the Miami Heat organization outside Pat Riley, because Pat Riley said he would give it to him if it was up to him. Outside of Pat Riley, it showed ownership was kind of, shitty. And it was like, how can you do that to Wade? Wade's a nice guy. Wade is a good guy. You follow what I'm saying? I'm quite sure y'all can negotiate something to give him a piece of the Miami Heat. Because prior to Wade, they ain't never won nothing. And they had some good players in Miami come through that organization. So that right there, I wanted to air that out as well. And so that's why he ended up getting traded to Cleveland based on. Say that again.
Oh, what'd you say?
I said that's why he got traded to Cleveland based on the disagreement. I mean, this was a severe disagreement between him and him and ownership. Organization loved Wade, from the towel boy all the way to the spokesman as the camera guy. You follow what I'm saying? They love Wade. But owner is the owner, right? Everybody else employees. And that's where the disagreement went. The Browns like, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? I went over there with you. Come on over here with me. And that didn't work out. So he ended up with Chicago after that, I think. And then back to, or did he go Chicago first? However it was, he went to a couple of teams and then he ended up full circle back at Miami because cooler heads prevailed. And it was like, man, Dwayne Wade looks strange being in another uniform. We can't have that. Let's bring him back. Let's talk this over. And let's make a bad situation good again.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely right about that. And, it's definitely unfortunate to see this guy in a different jersey. It definitely looked ugly. It really made no sense. It's crazy the way that LeBron sent his ass packing. What was your thoughts on that situation and how LeBron, do you think that it was best suited that he left Cleveland? Or do you think
some things just doesn't work out. Some things doesn't work out. It was good for the optics of LeBron extending out his hand. And listen, Wade could make his own way. You know what I'm saying? Wade doesn't need a charity basket to get him across the Nile River. He can make his own way. He showed he can make his own way. So it worked for a minute, and then it was like, okay, the optics over with. Time for me, to really, like I said, cooler heads have prevailed, and he made a full circle, and he ended up back in Miami. And there you have it, Wade County, back again.
Yeah. And like I said, when he got back to Miami, he did big things. You know, Wade wasn't the only person. For anybody that's tuned in right now, we're discussing the Hall of Fame class. It was obviously headlined by Dwade, was one of the most notable names, where you had Dirk, Powell, Tony, many others. You know, we think about Dirk's contribution to the game of basketball and his Hall of Fame situation. Um, what's some of the first thoughts that come to mind when you think of Dirk?
Well, first of all, the thing that comes to me is how his shot became his signature, that fadeaway. And they tried their best to replicate that in a statuette form outside of the Dallas Mavericks arena. And it was a long time coming for Dirk Nowitzki. Everybody wanted the German to win a championship. He put in so much work and so much effort, and his team just wasn't able to get over that hump. I mean, sometimes it couldn't pass Minnesota. Other times it couldn't pass the Lakers. And one time it couldn't pass Golden State as the number one seed. It was just so frustrating to see Dirk Nowitzki not getting to the championship game or the NBA Finals. Dirk Nowitzki was a beloved of the NBA. He was tall. He was gifted. He wasn't athletic, but he could put that ball in the hoop. It didn't matter who he was faced against. He was 7 foot doing the things that he was doing. That one-legged lean back, like Fat Joe said, lean back. You know what I'm saying? And now his statue is outside of Victory Plaza, the American Airlines Center. Dirk Nowitzki is now basically immortalized. And he leaves the NBA going up against LeBron. Going up against D-Wade the first time. He went, how many times did he go to the finals? Did he go 3? Or he went 2?
Who you talking about, Dirk?
Yeah.
Shit. I think he went. I know he lost one with Avery Johnson. I think it was only 2 times.
He lost against D-Wade. Remember D-Wade? That's the one that D-Wade won.
That was shot.
They was up 2-0 at one point. Dirk Nowitzki was up 2-0, and then all of a sudden it was a wrap. They didn't win another game. D-Wade won 4 straight. But and then he went up against LeBron. See, this is one of the most remarkable championships because the Dallas Mavericks was kind of, it was kind of, they beat the Lakers, they beat OKC, did they beat Denver in that run? But the thing of it is that nobody expected them to beat Miami. It was a classic example of David and Goliath. And so here is Paul Bunyan, Dirk Nowitzki, chopping down the big oak tree in the Miami Heat. And so by him doing that and accomplishing that with the remnants that he had, listen, J.J. Barea played over his head. Jason Terry played over his head. Never had a season like that again. We already know Jason Kidd is solid at what he does. And Tyson Chandler just held his grits. That's all he had to do is hold his grits. And Dirk came out a winner. So with all that said, Dirk basically nursed that team into a championship. And when we know that winning the great web of life was very important to Mark Cuban and that team with Dirk Nowitzki. Because at some point in that season, there was a pocket of trouble. And it was deep, it was dense, and it was almost another form of dysphoria. But Dirk will, as well as Jason Kidd, willed that team back into form, and they never looked back. So that season, they avoided an epic collapse because in the past, we have seen Dallas come out the season highly favored and then get into the playoffs, and the activity doesn't match their record. That season, where Dirk won the championship, was a different version of Dirk in the Dallas Mavericks. In that season, they accomplished things that no one else thought they would accomplish. So all of the numbers that Dirk put up prior to that justify itself. Now, if Dirk wasn't able to get over that hump, then all those numbers would have been in vain. But he put potency in those numbers, which was massive numbers. Not just for Dallas, but for the NBA. Those numbers was potent after capturing his one and only championship, in which garnered him a trophy outside of Victory Plaza at American Airlines Arena, or Center, excuse me, American Airlines Center. That Dirk Nowitzki is well deserved of his inductee into the NBA Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. You know, all of the things that he did for the league. I think that it would have been nice to see him been able to play with Luka Doncic a little bit more. Obviously, he came in the tail end. I remember when they drafted DSJ, Dennis Smith Jr., it looked like Dirk was taking him under his wing, but clearly he wasn't the guard of the future. It's crazy, but he's still around. They got a statue of this man. I mean, what more can you really say about him? What do you think the way Mark Cuban handled that first championship? Do you think that he failed Dirk?
No. How can he fall? How can anybody fail anybody if you win a championship? That's a win-win for everybody. And even though Rick Carlisle was the type of coach that he was, Jason Kidd was a perfect installation for Dirk. Because what Dirk didn't have as far as the leadership aspect, Jason Kidd was that rocker Jabolkin. So Dirk can focus on playing winning basketball without having the stress of holding other players accountable for their mishaps. Jason Kidd done that too. And Jason Kidd done it well. So the coupling of Jason Kidd to Dirk Nowitzki, that showed that Mark Cuban did Dirk a solid. He didn't have to sign Jason. Remember, Jason was drafted by Dallas. And it didn't work out. So him, Jimmy Jackson, of course, they're going to deny it. They're fighting over Tony Braxton. They're fighting over some skirts. So they chose Jimmy over Jason. That's how Steve Nash come into the picture. Because of the absence of Jason. Now, I'm not saying Jason is an angel. I'm not saying Jimmy Jackson is an angel. But Mark Cuban saw it best to fit Dirk Nowitzki with that mindset of a Jason Kidd. And Jason Kidd had matured, or should I say, Jason Kidd's maturation over the years, especially as the point guard for the New Jersey Nets, left an indelible mark on Mark Cuban's heart. And that's why he pulled him while Jason Kidd was slowing down. Before he ran out of juice paired him with Dirk Nowitzki. So Jason Kidd's the brainchild, and Dirk Nowitzki is the reckless one. And so you have the brainchild and the reckless one together with that shot that has been dubbed here to stay. Brought some control to the atmosphere. And that control brought an environment of winning. Because now people can't just say Dirk was about stat pad, not a winner. Because he showed that he can lower his gauge and allow Jason Kidd to lead in the areas where Dirk was weak at. Not a weak player, but just weak at certain aspect of his character. And so that proportion of Kidd correlating with Dirk Nowitzki created a championship atmosphere. So Dirk is not just known as a playoff player. Now Dirk is known as a champion, a Hall of Fame champion. He's in that elite class, right?
You're absolutely right about that. He took down some major, people to get that first championship. Obviously, he battled all of the notable names, like you said, out west. He didn't know where the action was coming from. He brought up Minnesota, all these other teams, but somehow Dirk prevailed and got him the ring. What you think about Pau Gasol? Obviously, we all remember his Laker days, but do you remember his days in Minnesota? In Memphis?
Say that again. Paul Gasol?
Yeah, do you remember Pau? I said that
Of course.
His Laker days, but do you remember him in Memphis?
Of course. I remember I'm having this discussion. It started out as a discussion, and then it ended up, it started out as a discussion. Then it ended up as dialogue. And before it was said and done, it was a debate. It was a 3-ring circus debate with me, the Pope, and Lonzo is trash. And I'm sitting up here dialed in for
You started breaking up. I don't know if you're still there or not, but it seemed like Dex was alluding to something that he was.
Can you hear me now?
You back now?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was saying that. So Lonzo is trash and Pope was against me and accused me of just dribbling a diatribe of Paul Gasol, and so I laid out the groundwork. And I basically told him that Paul Gasol numbers was Hall of Fame-ish even prior to coming to the Lakers. The only thing he hadn't done was won. But he had the numbers. And now he is a part of that elite class and there's no boundaries. So this Spaniard, whom Kobe Bryant embraced, have won back-to-back titles with Kobe Bryant and went to 3 straight NBA finals. The first NBA final, Paul Gasol felt he failed Kobe. And he kind of fell in despair. Can you hear me?
What'd you just say?
No, I'm saying, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Paul Gasol fell into somewhat of despair. Kobe Bryant went to him, talked Spanish to him, and let him know, listen, be tough. Kobe Bryant balled both of his hands up. And he shoved Paul Gasol in the chest with both fists tightened to show him that you're going to have pain, but your heart still have to beat. And you're going to have to power through the pain. And don't be down. Don't be despaired. Boston was a hell of a team, and we let them off the hook. The next time they played Orlando, and they swept Orlando. The fierceness of Paul Gasol. Then they played Boston again, and this time they beat Boston. Albeit there was no Kendrick Perkins to push Paul Gasol around, but he took advantage of the absence of Kendrick Perkins and puts buckets on the head of Kevin Garnett, who had to deal with Paul Gasol on a solo tip. And this charming Spanish guy, Paul, put the Lakers on top. And this was the first time in NBA history Kobe and Paul Gasol, Lamar Odom, and company, Bynum, beat Boston Celtics in a 7-game series where the 7th game was in Boston. Boston in their history have never lost a 7-game series when they had the home court advantage at the 7th game in their arena. So he broke that. He broke the curse of the leprechaun. Paul Gasol, the charming Spanish boy. And he allowed himself to be second fiddle. Because remember, Paul Gasol in Memphis was first option. So he allowed himself to play second fiddle to Kobe Bryant and allow Kobe Bryant to show him how to be a champion in the NBA. So everything Paul Gasol accomplished prior to coming to the Lakers has been justified and is justifiable. Now, with his stats, coupled with the fulcrum of a championship trophy, not one, but two, and not just two, but two consecutively, back-to-back champions, which a lot of players haven't done, awarded him and afforded him the opportunity to be inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame, the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Boston, Massachusetts. Paul Gasol, the charming Spanish guy.
He did a lot of things, man, in the league. Obviously, what he did for your Los Angeles Lakers. He even during the Hall of Fame speech, he seems very emotional. He's discussing Kobe Bryant. He let it be known, like it's basically he's not what he is without Kobe. What was that relationship like from a guy who his boots on the ground from LA? It wasn't always peaches and cream. Kobe got on Powell, but it seemed like Powell responded well, unlike some other people that Kobe has dealt with. What was your thoughts on that relationship?
Well, I thought it was necessary for Kobe to be diligent and showing great signs of leadership by bringing Paul Gasol along with toughness, because Paul Gasol was a very finesse player, and he was very good at what he done. I mean, his footwork was damn near on the par of Olajuwon, maybe not as good as Olajuwon, but it was on par of Olajuwon. And he was ambidextrous. So, it was very important. So when Paul Gasol came to the Laker landscape, it created a Levant. And the aesthetics of the Kobe, Paul, Odom, Bynum combination was almost a big four. And it was a very auspicious tandem with the two. They was very successful. It just, Kobe got old and Lamar, went on his binge, and that hookup just kind of just faded into the sunset. Bynum was thinking too much of himself. So there was a lot of conflicting interests. And the improbability of that sticking together for a duration of time was not foreseen. And we appreciate in Lakerland Paul Gasol as a good company and resource for Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers. We can't forget Phil Jackson, his indelible mark on Paul Gasol, not taking Paul Gasol's side, but taking Kobe's side. So Phil Jackson played head games. He's a psych. He played head games with Paul Gasol. And if Paul Gasol thought he had an open door policy, he had another thing coming. Go see Kobe. Go see Kobe. That's your medical doctor. He's going to work on your head. And Phil Jackson worked on him in a different kind of way. While Kobe was more brute, Phil Jackson was more emotional when it came to Paul Gasol and to instill a kind of toughness that he needed, and made sure he didn't suffer from mental fatigue when it got down to the nitty-gritty. So that's why I said earlier how Paul Gasol felt down after he assumed he let Kobe down, not winning that first one when they felt there was a better team. And they lost it in the restricted area. And that's where Paul Gasol and Bynum was supposed to hold it down. And Paul Gasol wasn't able to really assist Bynum in the way that he's supposed to because of fretfulness. He allowed the Boston Celtics to bully him. And that what infuriated Kobe Bryant when it came to Paul Gasol. So, and that it was a enduring nightmare for Paul Gasol. And he came back, he bounced back. And like I said, with the aesthetics of winning back-to-back in Laker land, that's a beautiful thing, winning back-to-back. That's something that they somewhat accustomed to. That's not foreign to Lakerland. And that's why he has a special place reserved in Laker faithful heart, number 16, Paul Gasol.
Yeah, Paul Gasol, man, was the absolute truth. I remember when he won his first chip against Boston. I was, like I said, that was crazy. I remember when they lost, that first year against Boston. I was rooting for Boston too that year, and the Lakers lost.
Hater.
What is that?
Said hater.
Yeah, I was. I mean,
how you gonna be a New York fan rooting for Boston? I mean, come on, man.
You know what?
That's a fool.
I ain't gonna lie. Coming up, I hated Kobe so much. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't like Kobe. I didn't like Kobe because I was a LeBron fan, and I just couldn't.
Okay. So I call that a beautiful serendipity.
Yeah, but I was a LeBron fan when he was with Cleveland. I think Boston took him out that year, took Cleveland out. But I just couldn't root for Kobe. It was just nowhere something. I just couldn't do it. I'd rather see the Celtics win before Kobe.
Wow.
But
It is what it is.
yeah, I mean, but give him credit. But Pau Gasol came back and did his thing. Proved that he was one of the top, players in the league. I remember when they got Meta World Peace and everybody. They had a squad. Pau Gasol was the second best player on the team. They had Bynum. I mean, that was a lot of talent. Gasol was a beast, man. You gotta pay homage to Pau Gasol. He got swept up in that thing with Lamar Odom. That sent Lamar Odom down the crazy train. You remember that trade that took place?
Yeah, because Lamar Odom already had issues, and everybody knew he had his issues.
Well, I mean, it wasn't public.
Yeah, it wasn't public, but I'm talking about in Lakerland. We knew, Lamar was a party guy. I mean, he was very well liked. It wasn't like he was a pariah. He was very well liked, and it's just that the value of Lamar Odom and his herky jerky or helter skelter play basically represented an existential threat to the Lakers internally. And he became what you considered a fungus among us. But outside of that, he was a very well-liked player. And this is why Lamar Odom had to eat candy all the damn time. Because he was so drained with his extracurricular activities. And he took his eye off the prize. And so his value that the Lakers put on him, it didn't turn out to be an apparatus of winning, basically. So Lamar Odom had to go. Even though they kept a lot of things in-house, that it was a strange quantum entanglement with Lamar in the LA area. Because he was a Clipper. He was drafted by the Clippers. Straight out of coming from Rhode Island. So he was a well-liked dude in LA because when the Lakers was a serious team, the Clippers were the fodder. The younger people liked the Clippers because they was wild, they was zany, they was loose, they was reckless. They were just doing crazy shit. You know what I mean? And Lamar was like one of the leaders of that young Clipper core at the time. And when you saw Lamar Odom play good games, you said, damn, man, this dude could be like Magic. You know what I'm saying? Because he had all the tools. He really was an unstoppable force. The only thing that stopped Lamar Odom was Lamar Odom. Hello. He's the only person that stopped himself. Because he was basically unguardable from the things that he could do. He was a 3-level scorer before people was really noticing 3-level scores. And he had the height. And he could handle the ball. New York native. So he can handle that rock, that peel. They call it the peel. He can handle that peel. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a sad thing to see him deteriorate the way he did and became a malnourished player. Our performance. I'll say it like that. His performance was malnourished. Yeah, when you go see the Clippers, right? Because we go see the Clippers just to see the other team play. We didn't really trip off the Clippers. We already knew they was bad. But when you see Lamar Odom coming out that locker room, ripping off his sweats, it was a spooky action at a distance. Because you said, damn, this dude's finna terrorize these people. And then he gets out there and have about 13 points, 6 assists, 9 rebounds. But every time he scores, it was so easy. You're like, why you don't do that more often? And that's because, like I said, he was struggling with his demons. And most of those demons overcame him. And if you would listen to some of his stories when he was on the Kardashians, And sometimes him and Chloe would be just kicking it, and he start talking about his New York past. You could see where it all came from, where it derived from. It was generational, and he admitted it. So the confluence of Lamar Odom in a Laker uniform became a negative thing because of all of the chatter that was behind closed doors. Lamar Odom partied with the average. And that's how his business get out there like that. But like you say, when you see this man and you see his archetype, you were like, damn, this is a specimen. He's fast. He's elusive. He can score on all levels. And he can play make. But oftentimes his head just wasn't in the game. And this is why you have Paul Gasol on one end of the spectrum and you got Lamar Odom on the other end.
So clearly two different personalities that went in two different directions. So you saying that Lamar Odom should have been in the Hall of Fame?
Like, did you hear me say some shit like that?
Nah, but I mean, you said two sides of the spectrums. I'm saying, so you're telling me if all things...
If Paul Gasol is a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
That's one side of the spectrum. That's the elite side. And Lamar Odom is in the dungeon. How did you understand or grab that I'm saying Lamar Odom deserved to be in the Hall of
Fame? I'm saying like if all the things didn't go left with Lamar Odom, could he
there's no telling where he might be. There's a lot of players never went left. Still not in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I can't say that. Only thing I can just go by from what I observed and where the data leads me. And right now, the data says Lamar Odom sabotaged his own career because he had ample opportunity to get it right. Even Mark Cuban gave him second chance. And he chose the other side.
Yeah, Mark Cuban, that was dumb. Now, he didn't want to play for Dallas. That was crazy. I don't know what happened when he got sent to Dallas. That pretty much ended his career.
I mean, that was a culture shock for him to leave the Lakers or the LA area. I'll just say the LA area because remember he was a Clippers first. No, he was a Clipper. Then he went to Miami. Then he came back to LA. So when you look at those places, those are all elite places to be, to have fun. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not taking your career serious, those are the places to be: LA, Miami. Outside of that, you're gonna have problems not taking your career serious.
Yeah. They sent those ass to Dallas.
That's where it was a culture shock.
Dallas.
Because Dallas, I mean, Dallas is a winning town as well. You know what I'm saying? Dallas is a winning town. They have their championships in football. Not too much else. I think in hockey, football and hockey, I think they're winners in. Prior to Dirk getting that championship. And when you're down there in D-Town, they want your full, undivided attention. Or you better be winning. You understand what I'm saying? If D-Town cannot get your full, undivided attention, then you better be winning. You better be winning. Because winning cures all ills. And people tend to look the other way when you're winning. Other than that, ain't no incoherency. You got to be focused until you win something. Or take that screwed face and crooked tongue somewhere else. They ain't playing that in detail.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Dex. There's a lot going on. It's messed up what happened to that dude Lamar Odom, man. So many people tried to resuscitate him, even Kobe. Nothing could get through. What made you think why nobody could eventually resuscitate him? Like I said, we're gonna come off Lamar, but just to close on Lamar Odom, he's still alive, he's still moving and grooving. But why could nobody resuscitate him at that time? Kobe tried to intervene. How Kobe couldn't get through?
Because when you got something that's attacking you physically, and at the same time attacking you psychologically, it's hard for anybody to be an apparatus of assistance. It's hard for anybody to be a fulcrum of faith and focus, because you are already mutilated. You have put yourself into the deepest den of despair when you're playing mind-altering games that results into altering activities. So that's why some days you're there and some days you're not. But you think you can handle it. You're a big man. You're a big, you know what I'm saying? You're a big person. So I can handle it. I got it under control. It ain't no big deal, man. Lay off of me, man. Lay off of me, blood. I got it. But you really don't got it. Because what you have done was convince yourself that your actions are normal. And anybody don't see it as normal, they are the crazy one. Because engaging in mind-altering drugs, like Lamar did, mountains of snorting cocaine, popping pills, alcohol, marijuana, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Anything that alter your mental state, when you have to go out there and be part of a collective, playing basketball, it's a team sport. It's not tennis, it's not golf, it's not racquetball, it's not handball, it's not an individual sport. Then you're in trouble. Because remember, I used the word incoherent. That's what it leads to. It leads to you not being focused. And at any time, you might have urges out there playing basketball because you don't sweat it out. Your so-called vibe. You don't sweat it out. Your so-called high frequency. You sweated that out. Now you come back to the bench. You chewing on your lip. You out there chewing on your lip like, dude, what's wrong with you? You fiending. So now your play is a little off. And now you got to come to the bench. Now your numbers are dwindling. Your impact is not impactful anymore. But by them paying you, they hoping you can play your way out of this. But instead, you looking at it like, man, I need more. Because I need to be more productive. So I need more of what I'm doing instead of less of what I'm doing, and try to revert the effects of it. But no, you continue. And this is why things start to spiral out of control, even though you think you're in control. I got this. Lay off me, blood. I got this, cuz. No problem, homie. Folks, I'm good. But no, you're not. And that's what happens. So a lot of people see it before you see it because you don't think nothing wrong with it. But that's why Lamar Odom failed in his expectation coming out of Rhode Island. Because him and Katina Mobley was college teammates. And they thought, Rhode Island won. I think did Rhode Island go to the Final Four? If they didn't, I think they went to the Elite Eight. I think they went to the Elite Eight and they lost to Utah in the Elite Eight, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, they thought that, Lamar Odom with his stature and his pedigree from high school to college, that he will be a very productive NBA player for a very long time. And sad to say, that just wasn't the case.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Dex. Last but not least, our man Tony Parker. What's some of the first things that come to mind when you think of Tony Parker?
Pest. I mean, Tony Parker was killing Derek Fisher. They couldn't have nobody to guard him. He killed Derek Fisher, he killed Jordan Farmer. I mean, Sasha Vucevic. We didn't have nobody that could stay in front of Tony Parker. And that, to me, was frustrating. So I never gave Tony Parker his just due. Never. And to me, Tony Parker has always been perceived as the perpetual enemy. But once he started dating Eva Longoria, once he started dating Eva Longoria, I said there must be something to this little Tony Parker guy. You know what I'm saying? Because at the time, he nabbed one of the top elites in Hollywood. She was on the shelf, but at the same time, she was one of the sex symbols. And when Tony Parker nabbed her, I was like, I might have to look at Tony Parker a little bit different. I know this little dude is a Frenchman, and you know what they say about Frenchmen. So I started a somewhat pilgrimage to focus on Tony Parker. And he stayed in the league for over 20 years, so he's definitely pinching, if I may say. And Tony Parker played with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Bruce Bowen, and Malik Rose, and a couple of other pretty decent players. But at the same time, he was one of them sneaky guys that had more game than Pop would allow him to showcase. It was tears and joy when it came to the relationship of Pop and Tony Parker. He was very hard on the Frenchman. And it wasn't a two-way street. And then you had the big fundamental, Tim Duncan, hearkening Popovich words and sentiments. So it was no way around it when it came to Tony Parker. And to some degree, Manu Ginobili as well. So Popovich basically structured Tony Parker's game so he wouldn't play too much outside the lines. Popovich had his fingerprint all over Tony Parker's game. But there's sometimes that Popovich would just unleash Tony Parker. And those were the times that I was like, oh my God, here we go, these damn Spurs. And when he unleashed Tony Parker could score 10, 12, 13, 14 points straight. That's how good this little dude was. He was so fast. He could finish with both hands. He could shoot. At first, he couldn't shoot that well. Then he developed, he could shoot really very well. And Tony Parker, coming into the league, he just tried to drive it to the bucket and get blocked or knocked down or whatever. And that frustrated Popovich and sometimes Tim Duncan, because now that was a blown opportunity where we could have had a more structured play. And I think Avery Johnson kind of assisted Tony Parker in his pull-up game. Don't go all the way to the bucket. Just go as far enough, and then once you see the player backing up, you raise and pull up. And once he incorporated that into his masterful, speedy game, he was practically unstoppable. But it wasn't his team. It was the big fundamentals team. It was Tim Duncan's team. So Pop made it a vested interest to keep Tony Parker on a short road. Because that's how explosive Tony Parker could have been. His numbers could have been way inflated. And if you go back and observe, because I remember it in live time. So I'm talking right now in a live time, reminiscing of Tony Parker. When you go back and look at Tony Parker in-game play, you can tell when the Spurs hit a dry or dead spot in a game, Tony Parker would be the one to keep them afloat. Tony Parker wanted to play an up and down game. Popovich, he wasn't going for that because he felt that his coaching and his teams were too strong to play up and down and lose opportunities for Tim Duncan to touch the ball because Timmy ain't running like that. So he had to put a bridle on Tony Parker because Tony Parker was a wild thoroughbred. And in doing so, that enabled Tony Parker to be a winner, stay with a winner, and be amongst one of the allure dynasties, especially from a small market, since the NBA been in existence. So he helped usher in that small market dominance. And as I said before, this brown-eyed Frenchman who nabbed Eva Longoria and I think he put a baby or two in, and then dumped her. And I was like, I gotta pay attention to this dude. This dude is suave. He's suave. You know? And the more I paid attention to him, and I removed the lens of hate from my eyes and start observing Tony Parker for who and what he was in that Spurs dynasty dynamic, I gained a full appreciation of what he brought to the game of basketball. Tony Parker, the Frenchman. And I forgave him for all the harmful things he done to my Lakers. I'm talking about he was a part of that hostile intervention that threw my Lakers out of championship contention. And the growing body of evidence of Tony Parker to the Spurs is somewhat unmatched. Because I bear witness that Tony Parker was instantaneous offense. And like I said, prima facie, basically at first glance, I couldn't stand this dude. I wanted to crack his head based on what he was doing to my Lakers. And it wasn't like it was a fluke. Popovich used to unleash Tony Parker on Derek Fisher. Popovich saw the matchup, saw it was a disadvantage, and would just unleash him. He unleashed him on Gary Payton, the glove. When the glove was, I know he was older, but the glove couldn't stand. I mean, he just ran circles around the glove. Sent the glove to Miami. You ain't gonna win here. You better go to the East and meet me there. So Tony Parker basically represents the quote that All life decisions are between a miracle and a grievance. He was a miracle brought over from France, European player to the Spurs and helped implement the dynasty. And he was a grievance to all those who oppose the Spurs and especially the Lakers because two of those Spurs championships could have been Kobe and Shaq. But thanks to Tony Parker and them Spurs, them damn Spurs, prevented the Lakers from having 19 commissioner cups. Boy, boy, boy. So basically, Tony Parker and the things that he incurred on the Lakers, he became a championship embargo to my Los Angeles Lakers. Sent them to Cancun plenty of times. So Tony Parker, your inductee into the Hall of Fame is well deserved and is justified. Salute to you, TP, and your continuous basketball implementations in France and developing those kind of players that will be coveted in the States or stateside in the NBA. And once again, congratulations to you and all of the 2023 Hall of Fame inductees. Like,
outside of the names that we mentioned, who else was in the Hall of Fame? Was there anybody else?
well, you got Becky Hammond. I mean, you got Popovich. All you talking about players.
Yeah, that was in this year's.
Mm-hmm.
Salute to Becky Hammond. I did hear Popovich's speech. You know, I'm not sure. What's your thoughts on Popovich?
But when you look at that, Becky Hammond, Popovich, and Tony Parker, the Spurs dominated this year Hall of Fame.
San Antonio. Everybody thought Becky was going to take over, but obviously it didn't go down like that.
Yeah, because of Wembanyama. Wembanyama stopped all that.
Well, Popovich wasn't going to fuck around with that. He was coaching Wembanyama.
Yeah, exactly. You ain't going to let that go. He's looking at David Robinson all over again. You know what I'm saying? He's wide-eyed when it comes to Victor Wembanyama. His eyes are so wide open. His nose is open. I mean, he's just like feeling good about himself. That he have an opportunity to help shape, form, and develop raw talent like that. So Wembanyama gonna have to start eating some meat or something.
Yeah, how soon do you think Popovich can be able to turn things around?
Well, you know what? That right there, because the Spurs is god awful. I don't know as far as how you go turn things around. I think Pop might be there maybe 2 years, 3 at the most, just to get him hopefully he can get him a play-in or playoff spot. If he can do that, I think Pop will be grateful that he participated in getting the Spurs back into a playoff contending type of team. But as far as getting to that championship type of team, I don't see that in the very near future. It's other teams way ahead of the Spurs, even with Victor Wembanyama on the roster and a healthy and playing. The West is just filled or just littered with championship contending teams. And if they're not championship contending teams, they are deep playoff run contending teams. They just littered with that in the West.
Right about that. There's a lot of contention going on out there. Shout out Rap Guy Reloaded. Said Coach Pop, Parker mentoring Wemby. Everybody gonna be mentoring him. He gonna have everybody there. You seen it seemed like all of the Spurs is intact, even in this Hall of Fame. You seen everybody there. Duncan is back involved. They're gonna be there and mentoring this dude Wembanyama because they know that's their ticket. Back to success. The Spurs just been in the cellars. Just for a second. Now it's looking like they got their guy. That's gonna be a little more flashier than Tim Duncan. Don't you think Wembanyama is definitely gonna have that flash? Don't you think?
Yeah, but at the same time, we don't want to have any preconceived notions.
Okay.
I just feel that Victor Wembanyama, he needs more weight. You see Chet Holmgren gained, I think was like 30 pounds in the offseason. I think Victor Wembanyama, I just believe he just needs to gain a little more weight. I don't think his height and his weight is a balance. So people will try to bully him. People will try to power through him. Even though he's tall, they will still try to power through him based on his spindly body.
Well, I hope this dude Wembanyama don't get destroyed out there in the NBA. I think they're gonna put together a plan for him, so he don't get broken down. I think he's in good hands, Dax. They're not gonna set him up.
Right. Durant could get away with that to some degree when he was that young and spindly, because Durant was a finesse type player. But when you're a center, they expect you to get, down in the trenches and develop some stuff. You know what I'm saying? They expect you to get down in the trenches and stop some stuff. So once you down or you have been commissioned to defend that restricted area, that's what they expect of you. And if you can't defend it, then they're gonna look at you as a chump. And sad to say, they want instant success. I'm talking about the fan base. I'm not talking about Pop. The fan base want instant success. And so it's different from the Tim Duncans of the world. It's different from the Manu Ginobilis of the world. It's different from the Tony Parkers of the world. All three Hall of Famers, current Hall of Famers, because each one of them came to a decent team. Now, we know when Tim Duncan came to the Spurs were tanking to get Tim Duncan. So the Spurs were bad, but they were bad by design. They wasn't bad by default. So that's the difference. The Spurs was a playoff team. And then I think David Robinson got hurt and Avery Johnson got hurt or whatever. And then they started tanking for Tim Duncan. They was really one of the first teams that started that tanking shit, Popovich. And so they got Tim Duncan and it was bad since. Once they acquired Tim Duncan through the draft, they got Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Bruce Bowens, and and other players. You know what I'm saying? They already had the Sean Elliott's and the David Robinson and the Avery Johnsons. And they had another dude on that team too. I just can't think of his name. Whatever. But yeah, the Spurs was a good team. And then, that injury, they had an injury season and they was facing a lockout. And so they started tanking. And then when the season started again, after the temporary lockout, Spurs took advantage of it and beat everybody to the finish line in that shortened season. And it was crowned champions. And they never looked back as far as being competitive. And all they did was add it to their empire. They just kept adding to the empire, And that's why they were somewhat of a dynasty, It was Lakers and Spurs, with a little bit of Detroit mixed up in there.
Yeah, the Spurs, man, they're gonna be doing their thing. I think they're gonna be straight. I like some of the pieces they got. They even bringing in some more people. They're gonna put some shooting around him. Obviously, they got Bullock. They got what's this guy? I forgot the other kid's name. They got out there. I know they got Vassell. They got some other talent that's out there. They clearly need to maybe possibly get another draft pick. Let's
Like,
see.
you're digging too deep. They ain't got nothing out there.
Oh,
They'll
no,
be a bottom feeder. They'll be a bottom feeder.
Yeah, they will be. They need another draft pick.
Yep, they need another draft pick. I say 3 years they can be decent.
Was that this dude? What does it say for Popovich, Hall of Famer? He didn't have to do this. He could have easily let somebody else take over the helm. Now, why would he re up for 5 more years?
Yeah, but Popovich should have been in the Hall of Fame, to be honest with you. I don't even know why it took this long to be inducted in Naismith. You know, he's overqualified. He was the only coach that can match wits with Phil Jackson, and that's not easy to do. I know he had talent, but Phil always had talent too. Phil never coached a team bereft of talent. You know, as soon as he feels a team not having talent, he gone. He potent. He out of there. He ain't gonna mess up my resume. You know what I'm saying? And I don't blame Phil because he deserved better. And Popovich was like the same, but yeah, he hung on in there and he coached some really awful teams. But yet, he didn't run for the fences. He stayed in there, grinded out, and now he inherited one of the more unique players in the NBA. So basically, since Ralph Sampson. So for the Spurs to be looked upon as competitive because of Victor, I think that's disgusting pathology. And it's setting people up for disappointment. So I don't want to do a lot of speculation. I want to do more documentation. And from the history of last season, I don't see the Spurs winning more than 30 games. And I'm being very lenient when I say this. And that's based on a frame of beliefs. Because Victor Wembanyama, I do not believe that he can man up in the restricted area. In today's NBA, where there's a lot of finesse going on and a lot of fouls be called, I think Victor will find himself in a deep pocket of trouble if he tries to stand up night in and night out and man that restricted area. I think he will be in a world of trouble, foul trouble that is, and that will get him out the game early. I do not see Victor being fast on his feet as far as reaction to players coming from the weak side and attacking from his left. I just don't see it in him just yet. Maybe he's holding back. I don't know. But in Summer League, when I watched him play, when he slides to the left, it is very awkward. It is very weak. But when he slides to the right, he's putting that shit in the lower levels. So teams going to have footage on him, and they're going to have video, and they're going to study him. And I guarantee you, more teams is going to put their slasher towards Victor Wembanyama's left and make him come challenge with his left hand before they make him come challenge with his right hand. Good coaches who knows X's and O's will come at that. And keep that in mind. You heard it first on Flight Sports TV. Victor Wembanyama, his defensive stance is very weak when he goes left. And I believe teams in crucial moments of the game will challenge that side of Victor Wembanyama. So Popovich going to have to counter that and put his best defender, wing defender, on Victor Wembanyama's left side. Let's see if that happens.
It's going to be interesting to see how all these teams try to figure out a way to stop him. There is going to be one team that finds a way, and it's going to be the blueprint. Obviously, what comes to mind is physicality. Get physical with them, break them down. But let's see. He was talking cash money. On the podium, talking about over there is more physical, this and that. I just hope that the league, do him like they did everybody else. I want him to match up against somebody hard, especially the first game. Like somebody like another threat at the center position. Maybe a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, Joel Embiid, things of that nature. Maybe Anthony Davis. I would like to see him against a real serious opponent. Game one.
Like, you don't want to see that. That's gonna be horrible.
But the NBA gonna protect them. But I want to see that.
Anthony Davis receiving the contract, being the richest annual player in NBA history. It will be an aerial incursion of disbelief. You wouldn't be able to aspirate. Hold on one second, Fleck.
Well, basically, what I was trying to do today.
Okay, I'm back. Something come in. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to aspirate long enough until a sudden death. So Popovich will have to definitely mitigate that situation by putting his best defender, wing defender, on Victor Wembanyama's left side. Because remember, Giannis, Embiid, Joker, Anthony Davis, just the top 5 guys right now, right? All are right-handed. So that means when they attack the basket, they're attacking the basket on Victor Wembanyama's left side. So when Victor Wembanyama challenged, the proper way to challenge as a shot blocker, a right-hand attacker, is that you go up with your left hand. You know why you go up with your left hand? Because left portion of your body will be in the way to foul the attacker. So you put your left hand as a defender on the approaching attacker's right hand. And it's the opposite for a left-hand shooter. But since these centers that I just mentioned are all right-hand dominant, then that will put Victor Wembanyama in a disadvantage unless Popovich X and O as a mitigation for Victor Wembanyama's weak left side by placing a stout wing defender on that side to help lessen the blow. Other than that, Flight, it's going to be a continuance of aerial incursion. And like I said, you won't be able to aspirate long enough before the next blow comes. So you got to keep in mind that the guy is just too thin right now. I'm not saying he doesn't have IQ. I'm not saying that his reaction won't be there. I'm not saying his twitch won't be there. But what I'm saying, he is very slow in moving in the left direction. So it could be because he always been taller than everybody. So he just could just lean over. You understand what I'm saying? He just can lean over and challenge that side of his body. But now you got players, they might not be 7'5", but you got players 7'1", 7'2". You got players 6'10", 6'11". You know what I'm saying? That can jump. Yeah. And they got strength and force behind their jumping ability. And if he put that hand up there a little too often, a little too soon, you find himself with a broken wrist.
Dex, we got somebody on the panel. I'm not sure if he's a new guy or not. His name is Dante Reeves. Are you on the panel? I don't recognize this person. But if you do, acknowledge yourself. Otherwise, we might have to get you out of here. We don't want somebody just sticking around the back. All right. He looked like he having some technical difficulties. But yeah, he's gone. So you said something about him stretching out his arm. He'd get his arm blocked.
Yeah, I'm saying that he has to be careful about that because I'm not talking about the smaller guys that's going to try to make a name for themselves dunking on him. I'm not talking about those smaller guys. Like Kai Jones, he's a smaller guy, right? But I'm talking about guys that have weight behind them. I'm talking about that veteran weight. He has to be very careful in picking his battles. And I'm quite sure Popovich will probably tell him, don't be anxious to try to challenge everything. It's only 2 points. A dunk is only 2 points. You know what I'm saying? And it's not worth getting your wrist, your fingers, or even your elbow locked on somebody and you absorbing the brunt of their weight. Hostile intervention. You don't have to challenge everything. And that's something young guys will have to learn and mature in to really appreciate the value of that information, that you don't have to win every battle at the rim.
Good call, Ducks. Shout out to the chat. Rap guy says Holgram is also a stretch for Kai Jones. Says, I don't think Spurs will make mistakes like with AD forcing him to be a 5. We're gonna find out how good he's gonna be and how they're gonna utilize him. It's gonna be very interesting. The Spurs, they're gonna be a team to watch. Probably definitely a league pass favorite. They're gonna move many league pass units. Believe it or not, because people want to see this dude, including myself. Pause.
Yeah. See, the thing of it is, like, I'm not saying he's spamming the can. I'm not saying anything to that nature. I think it's going to be extraordinary times to see Victor Wembanyama, especially if you have a front row seat to his display of basketball. I think that's going to be exciting to watch. So I'm not claiming that he's spamming the can. Only thing I'm saying is that he has to be careful in picking his battles at the rim. And I'm quite sure Popovich is going to bring that into his ear. Young man, you don't have to block every shot. You don't have to challenge every dunk. Now, if the game was on the line, of course you go all out. You just got to control his massive inertia when it comes to his instincts, because he's so used to being the tallest player, probably the best player, and not too many restrictions have been placed on his game. That's how you get a 7'5" guy shooting 3-pointers or trying to cross you over at the top of the arc. And I understand that. But this is the NBA. We're coming off the heels of inductees into the Hall of Fame. So you coming into an arena, when I mean arena, I'm talking about not just a particular arena, but the whole arena in itself, the NBA landscape. When you come into that arena, you coming into face ambitious players just like yourself. And the only things that separate the two, like we spoke about Dwayne Wade, is that inner drive that no one can measure. So if he had that inner drive that no one can measure, then I think he's going to be all right. So I'm not claiming that he's spamming the can. I'm not doing that with Victor. I don't know. But only thing I'm saying is that these are extraordinary times, and we should be thankful that we have a front row seat to witness this extravaganza. We ain't going to be one of the ones who missed out on this aspect of basketball history. Yes, I got a lot of basketball history under my belt that some of you guys might have missed out on. But I'm telling you right now, you don't have to miss out. Just keep checking in with Flight Sports TV. And first thing, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We can't iterate that more. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss one iota of an exuberant experience. So as we engage in the upcoming football season, basketball is right on the heels of that, and we're going to have a plethora of sports topic to discuss and break down. So we can debate it, discuss it, or just have simple dialogue on it. The 3 Ds, right?
Right, absolutely. Like I said, we're gonna definitely do that. So y'all better make sure y'all stay tuned. You know, we got a lot of things coming for the people. We're gonna definitely, make sure that we provide you guys an experience. We're gonna try to improve, things around here as well. We got a lot of good things. We're gonna have many discussions to make sure that this is an exuberant experience for you. We ain't just gonna talk about it. We're really going to put the work in and doing that for you. It's time to turn it up. You already know what it is. Listen, we're gonna pull back up tomorrow. We got a lot of things to discuss. We had a hell of a night tonight with All Access. Any closing remarks, Dex?
Yes. Like I said, everybody just don't miss out. We're going to get into that football. I know Flight been teasing you about football for a minute now, but we're going to get into it. Preseason is underway, and we're coming off the Hall of Fame game to NFL. Now we're coming off the Hall of Fame of the NBA, those inductees who are well deserving and things of that nature. So, like I said, it's Flight Sports TV, and we want to cover the spectrum of sports and give it to you in volumes and give it to you in quality. So that way you will appreciate and you will pull up and you will share, you will like, and you will also disseminate the information to friends and family to be a part of the Flight Sports TV experience.
Yes, sir. You already know what it is. We're going to be back tomorrow. Make sure you hit the like button. Most definitely hit the subscribe button. It's Flight Sports TV.
Flight Sports TV, man. That's my dude. I rolls with him.
You heard what the man said. It's Flight Sports TV.